All right. Hey, we're back. Got to hit you with the infamous catchphrase. Welcome to News 6 Weather at 9:30. I'm going to be your host tonight. In the hot seat, meteorologist David Nazario. It's great to see everybody joining us over on News 6 Plus tonight, as well as over on the News 6 YouTube channel. We've got quite a bit to talk about tonight. And to tell you the truth, a lot of it doesn't really pertain to Central Florida. It does, but it doesn't at the same time. We've actually had some pretty stellar weather here in the Sunshine State of Florida. We've actually managed to embrace that nickname full-heartedly throughout the last 7 days, a huge reprieve from all the heavy rainfall and the gusty winds we've had buffeting the east coast of the state of Florida. Now, the winds haven't entirely backed off, and that's all because we've been under a totally different pattern that's helping to create these fall-like conditions. We were initially a little more like the fall season earlier on this past week and this past weekend, but it looks like we're getting another double dipping, if not a triple dipping of that here very soon, and we'll talk all about that. We'll go ahead and say hello to some folks tonight. It looks like we've got Elizabeth in the chat. Kevin Hawthorne, it's always great to see you, my friend. Melissa Riley joining us tonight as well. Who else do we got? Zach. I do see Rodney from over on YouTube watching as well. Kiera, it's good to see you. Golding Ferdy says, hey, Naz, Jensen Beach checking in. Well, it's great to have everybody with us. I hope that this week treated you well, and we're all in store for a pretty solid weekend, at least in terms of the weather department. I'm going to continue to send the good vibes to you. Make sure that you have a great weekend all the way around, especially since Mother Nature will be on our side. Let's go ahead and talk about what it is that we're tracking. These are your headlines for tonight, so you can see mild temperatures are still expected with some clouds. Today we had a lot of what's called fair weather cumulus joining us across the area. I noticed this particularly during my way into the studio earlier this afternoon. If you look at the clouds especially, I find it very interesting. This is why I love weather so much. You can tell that it's fairly dry out. We have some moisture out there in the low levels. That's what gave us the cumulus clouds earlier today when the sun was still up. But if you notice, they looked very pancake-ish. They were very flat. No vertical reach to them whatsoever or height. I think that's very neat because you can tell the atmosphere is a little more stable. Everything is squished down. That's why instead of those blossoming cauliflower-looking things that you would typically see on a thunderstormy kind of day where there's some heating of the day, kicking off showers and storms, they were a lot more rolled out like dough or flat bread, if you will, like a pita bread sitting out there on the kitchen counter. When you switch over to the radar, it's quiet. We still have the flood conditions, unfortunately, up there near the St. Johns. We've had that easterly wind component just pumping water into the mouth of the St. Johns for an extended period of time. Thankfully, we haven't had anything tropical right up against our east coast, let alone any storm system that would continue to direct the water further into the mouth of the river. But unfortunately, the flood stage still remains. I believe we are still at a moderate stage. Thankfully, we haven't had any additional contributions to that. But we're going to continue to watch that, especially with what may be brewing down in the tropics. We'll get to that here in a moment. I want to show you just how little of the rain we've seen over the last 7 days. So ignore the top there. I know it's this past 24 hours. I changed this on the fly, and I'm kicking myself in the pants. I didn't update the little ticker tape at the top there. But we've only seen trace amounts of rain throughout the last 7 days. We have barely seen nil to none. In fact, that dark blue swath you see extending through central portions of Volusia County, through Brevard, Seminole, Orange, Osceola, knocking on my doorstep here in northeastern Polk County, that was from that random band, that random strand of rainfall that came through back on Tuesday, I believe it was. Took us all by surprise. It was like a little weak impulse in the lowest portions of our atmosphere, managed to dabble a little bit of rainfall on us, and then very quickly vaporized because of just how dry it was out there. When you look at the water vapor satellite, you can see that dry air just continues to funnel in towards the north. But if I take you full screen, one thing I do want us to start paying attention to, especially for our friends up there near St. Louis, Missouri, Illinois, extending back through Tennessee. I have a couple folks I love to talk to in Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana. This next feature here is what's going to help to provide us with a little bit of rainfall as we go through your Sunday evening into your Monday morning. Some of that may try to stick around, but it does seem to be primarily a Sunday evening rain event event, especially the further northwest you go. We're definitely getting into that time of the year where we're tracking the fronts northwest to southeast across the state. The sea breeze will pretty much be non-existent from this point forward. It's going to cause some severe weather action for our neighbors to the northwest and then sweep on in as we go through tomorrow, and then especially Sunday. It'll start to knock on our doorstep, and you can see all the dry air back behind it once again, helping to cool our temperatures and clear the skies out here in Central Florida. So most of Saturday and a large majority of your Sunday should be pretty good to get out there and do some fall festivities, maybe visit a pumpkin patch or a corn maze, get out to some sort of a spooky shenanigan kind of affair if you want to get over to Horror Nights, Howl-O-Scream. I'm not thinking that the rainfall is going to be that extensive to where we're going to see any type of a washout, especially when you zoom in on us. Look at that water vapor. I have the reds and the grays highlighted here just to show you how dense and thick that layer of dry air is. Even though we have that little bit of moisture trying to work in off the eastern Gulf, you can kind of very faintly see it digging into the Big Bend area just out ahead of that frontal feature that's up to our northwest right now. It's just not doing very much in terms of tickling the weather pattern to get it to rain enough or build in some more hefty cloud cover to where the sun won't be shining for much of the day. And I don't know about you all out there. Let me know in the chat over on YouTube, but I'm very excited that we haven't had to deal with thunderstorms. We haven't had to deal with cloudy or gloomy days. It's been pretty solid outside, especially when you factor in the little bit of a breeze you get alongside the dry air to make the temperatures feel that much more fall-like. And I've got good news. It definitely looks like as we roll down the pike getting closer to Halloween, these temperatures are going to try to come down even further. These are the temperatures outside right now. Gainesville and Palm Coast coming in at 68. The Village is at 67. Sanford also at 68. The rest of us kicking back in the low to mid 70s, which is pretty good. You can see here, however, we continue to cool down despite the fact that we have a system getting ready to roll through the southeast. I do think tomorrow, especially during the warmest portions of the afternoon, we are going to see a little bit of an uptrend in our surface temperatures, and that's primarily because of the fact that we have a system that's going to help to pull in a little bit of additional moisture and a little bit more of that tropical moisture and warmth from off our west coast and down from the south. So in terms of your Saturday, looking really good. Saturday and Sunday, maybe a 20% chance of rain on Sunday, a little warmer and muggier just because we're going to be on the leading edge of that new air mass coming down that's been sweeping across the United States. Look at the difference in your high temperature there, but overall still fairly kosher. And then if you know anybody who's going to be taking advantage of Biketoberfest, once again, looking pretty immaculate outside. And then this is the part that I really want to get into you all for sure. Let's take a look at the temperature anomalies together. So as this goes through time, this is starting out tonight, we still have those bluer shades encompassing much of the eastern United States, which tells me we are below average in comparison to where our temperature should be right now. Now, if you look as we go into next week, look at how the shades of blue really begin to dig in over the eastern seaboard and prepare to come on into Central Florida. And then as we get towards the last few days of the month, let me go ahead and go back to the end of the loop there. Look at that. As we get ready for Halloween, the build up to Halloween night and then Halloween itself is looking pretty good. Obviously, pending what happens in the tropics. That's the kicker here. But in terms of your Halloween forecast, really looking downstream a little bit, everything looks pretty solid out there. Things are lining up to where we should be able to thoroughly enjoy our Halloween festivities. If you celebrate, of course, regardless, we're in for a pretty good Friday night. So if you're not donning the mask and the coveralls like I plan on doing so, it's still going to be pretty cool out there to just get out and about or sit out on the back porch, invite some family and friends over and enjoy yourselves. So when we come back, I know there's already questions popping up in the chat. Yes, we're going to go down south and we're going to talk tropics as soon as we come back from this 3-minute break. So don't go anywhere, folks. I'll be right back with you momentarily. Bam! Any Emeril Lagasse fans out there? Anyone at all? Let me know in the chat. I've been on an Emeril Lagasse binge. I used to watch him way back when I was younger on the Food Network, but then recently, especially as I started dabbling into a bunch of meal prep recipes that I've been doing at home, I've been sitting back and watching some good old Emeril once again on social media. I just thought I'd go ahead and wake everybody up since it's fairly late at night. Shoot, I kind of need the wake-up call myself, especially since it's as late as it is, and I've been pulling early mornings the last few days. But welcome back to News 6 Weather at 9:30. We're going to go ahead and get right into it before I take up any more of your time. Let's get out to the tropics. So we have, surprisingly, two areas that National Hurricane Center is monitoring, but the one out in the Caribbean is the one that everybody's eyes should be on top of. That secondary area of interest way up in the northwest corner of the Atlantic, that's an interesting one. It looks like, based on the satellite structure, at least here on the actual tropical outlook, it might be attempting to take on some sort of subtropical characteristic, maybe a little bit of thunderstorms trying to fire up near the center, but it is still attached to fronts and supported by our jet stream, which makes it almost as non-tropical as you could possibly get. But especially in the wake of subtropical storm Karen, they may have preemptively tagged it just in case it does try to bubble up some of those textbook-style thunderstorms in the core. So I do see some folks asking in the chat where Jonathan is. It's just a day off for him. He had to work last Sunday, so as we do these rotations, we're going to be cycling through Mets in the evening, so he won't be joining us tonight. He's getting some much-needed rest, which is great for him. I know we all need that time to kick back and unwind, so hoping that he's enjoying his evening. I'm definitely having a great time with all you all here at News 6. And with that being said, we're going to get into some of your tropical takeaways. So as you can see, we do have our two players on the board. Area number one, that's the one I really want to emphasize we got to be paying attention to. Just because anytime we get something in the Caribbean, it could be a game player for just about anybody's weather. It could sneak west, it could cut back east, it can go north, it can go southwest, it could hit somebody, regardless of what it may look like and at what time. It does seem like we're kind of wobbling back and forth in terms of when the development window could be. National Hurricane Center is getting a bit more confident that it could occur within the next 7 days. In light of today's model runs and ensemble runs, we've got some very hardy we've got some very big discontinuities, to tell you the truth. It's becoming a bit of a painful pattern to try to diagnose, let alone forecast for you all. I wholeheartedly think we are still just a little too far away to truly be able to analyze not only what the big picture weather pattern is going to do with this thing, but especially some of the more localized phenomena that may end up sparking the development of this feature. Next two names up on the list, though, are going to be Melissa and Nestor. I do think Melissa is on its way. Nestor still to be determined. November could still be a bit of a wild card for us. So this is our tropical satellite down there in the main development region. There's something I've been obsessing over for the last, I'd say, couple hours now. Let me take you on in for a closer look. I'll stop the satellite loop and we're going to break out my handy-dandy pen tool. This here is our wave in question. Right out of the gate, notice this huge line of showers and thunderstorms continuing to dig off towards the east. That's a deep trough and a very strong surface front that's been rocking through the upper periphery of the Caribbean. I know Claire, watching in the chat, was sending me photos earlier today and yesterday of all the thunderstorm action they've been getting down in Puerto Rico. It goes to show just how healthy of a frontal system and how strong that low pressure that's tagged by National Hurricane Center really is. As these two interact and continue to push this high over the western Atlantic eastward, it's going to take our subtropical ridge and keep it sandwiched in the southeast corner of the tropical Atlantic. That's why both this wave and this thing back here, this is starting to pop up on our models. Not really worried about development with it, but this could actually wander through the same kind of flow as our actual tagged area of interest and maybe encourage some additional development down in the central southern Caribbean. I've noticed especially our European computer model is trying to latch on to that create a bit of a gyre, a large scale counterclockwise turning in our flow in the Caribbean, and then mashes these two things together. Kind of like what Milton did last year, was a mashing of a bunch of different features out there that eventually sparked a strong system. And I'll shoot straight with you. Let me go ahead and I'll go ahead and pull up some of our latest deep mind ensembles. I didn't want to pull them up just yet because they're also pretty wonky, but I will say some of our latest model runs from these ensemble products, I think, paint the whole picture for you all. So let's take a look. And I want you to notice the 3 different tracks that we could possibly take here. Quicker development shoots back up towards Puerto Rico, Hispaniola. If it takes its time and begins to feel the approaching I should say the approach, sorry about that, the approach of our next frontal system, it'll actually get fairly strong. There's a very high ceiling with this system. We could very easily be looking at another major hurricane down there, let alone another possible Category 5, if the timing, the structure, and the localized environment are all locked in and sync with one another. And then it'll do that trademark curving back towards the north and east. Or takes a little too long to develop, misses everything, and crashes into Nicaragua, Honduras, Belize, just like Tropical Storm Sarah did last hurricane season. So when you look at the formation probabilities here, I'll pull us back over to our Lynx computer. You can see regardless, the Windward and Leeward Islands are going to receive this system. That is without a doubt locked in at this point. You should be bracing for tropical impacts as we go over the next 5 days. It is headed your way. You'll be the first to receive it. And then by next Wednesday, we could possibly have a system percolating in the southwestern Caribbean. Now, the more off to the southwest it lingers, that's when it becomes a bit more detrimental to our folks in Jamaica, the Cayman Islands. Central America obviously could get dumped on if it's hanging out just off the immediate shoreline, maybe even kissing the beaches out there. And then we in Central Florida still want to keep an eye on this. I know none of the lines I showed you right now have us in the path. I know a lot of the other computer models have it doing all kinds of weird things, but I promise you, first and foremost, we're still a little too far out to be saying, oh, we're good. Oh, we're not good. If you hear anything out there that says Florida's in the clear or Florida's going to get hit, just discard it. Disregard it completely. It's nonsense. We truthfully, wholeheartedly don't know. And I don't know if y'all can see, but my gray hairs are popping up just because of how crazy the models have been the last 48 hours. They'll swing this way, then they'll swing this way, then they'll swing this way, and the next thing you know, they're going backwards. So I will continue to update you all every step of the way, and I want you to understand that the weather team here at News 6, especially myself and my buddy Jonathan Kegges, are watching this thing very closely, and we're dialing in exactly what our expectations and what our forecast looks like, despite the models really not working with us. So when we come back, I'll go ahead and open up the floor for a few questions. We'll spend a little bit more time together, and then I got a jet to go do the 10 o'clock show, so hopefully you can stay tuned for that, but I'll be right back with you here momentarily. All right, we're going to come on back. There we go. We're back over on News 6 Plus. I totally forgot to hit the countdown just because I'm that excited to start talking weather with you all again. But now we'll go ahead and open up the floor to some questions. And let's see. What do we got in the chat? And it could be anything, too. It doesn't necessarily have to be weather-related either. This is the part I really enjoy, and this is something I do at home base. Whenever I have a live discussion with everybody, I love to just talk, chat it up. It's better than one-directional vocalizing, you know? So, Elizabeth, it's great to see you as well. And I know, no music. I haven't done this position enough to where I could boot up the music, but I'll start to look into it here very soon. And Rodney Shelby over on YouTube says, it's been a goofy hurricane season. It absolutely has been. The computer models are definitely trying to double back on themselves, especially the GFS. The American model, GFS, has been doing some pretty wonky things with our tropical wave. A lot of it has to do with some of its regular biases that it struggles with. So that's why we're seeing all sorts of different dorked up iterations of what the storm will do. And for some strange reason, it really has it out for Puerto Rico. Every single American model run that has come out has somehow managed to track the system right over top Puerto Rico. I don't know why. It's very interesting. But I do want to say that we still all need to pay attention to this system, even if the models right now suggest we don't. There is a lot of discontinuity and a lot of inconsistency with everything that I've seen, and that part kind of stresses me out. But at the same time, what that tells me is our models are starting to ingest different pieces of the large-scale weather pattern that are causing these massive shifts. There's still things that haven't gotten into our computer models as part of when they take in the data and then start to produce their solutions. When you see these very dramatic shifts or dramatic changes or even weird outcomes, that means that they're kind of sniffing something. They just quite haven't woken up fully to smell the coffee, if that makes sense. Yeah, no, you don't want to see the GFS. The GFS is kind of silly. It tries to spin up multiple systems at the same exact time, which is just not going to happen. Even our artificial intelligence models have been struggling. And to tell you the truth, I'm not sure. But if I'm being boldly honest, and I've told a couple of folks this over the last couple days, if there was any system this entire hurricane season that has a better shot of impacting the United States, let alone the state of Florida, it's probably this one, just because of the pattern in place. Now, I'm not saying it's going to, but in overall, whether or not a system had the potential of a United States landfall, this one probably has the greatest chance, truthfully. Now, we did have one other landfall this hurricane season. We had Tropical Storm Chantal make landfall into the Carolinas. So it's not like we've gone completely without a system touching the U.S. And technically, the remnants of Tropical Storm Barry wreaked havoc on central Texas as well. But alrighty, everybody, it is that time. I got to go ahead and split here, mic up, and then jump in front of the green screen. So hopefully you all can continue to watch. It was great chatting with everybody. I look forward to an opportunity to talk to everybody again. If things continue to trend in an odd direction down there in the tropics, you'll probably see me here in the Digital Weather Center coming at you live a little more frequently. But I hope you have a beautiful Friday night. Have a solid weekend if I don't get to talk to you either on social media or over on YouTube elsewhere. And nevertheless, you know you can count on us to give you all the reliable, accurate, and timely tropical weather update and Central Florida weather, anywhere weather for that matter, whenever you need it. But until next time, folks, I love to say the outro catchphrase. This is the Digital Weather Center, signing out.